President trying to get on top of these big issues. He talked about it this week, sending troops to the border. Now he's actually acting.
That's right. So yesterday, President Mattis, the Secretary of Defense Mattis signed a deployment order, and we're seeing the first National Guard troops deployed to the border. Texas has committed 250 out the gates, Arizona 100, many other states saying we are prepared and postured to send more. But that official order triggers a process by which up to 4,000 troops will be headed to that border for a deployment. Right now it's a 6-month order. It's a Title 32 order, which is gobbledygook speak for the fact that governors will still have direct control over them. But these troops are federalized in that they're paid by the federal government on a federal mission to basically stop the infiltration of illegals into our southern border, because we continue to see a problem there, and Congress has not responded with the border wall the president had hoped for.
Yeah, well, as they should. Governors they see exactly what goes on in their particular state, and every state is different, so it's so important that the president does work directly with those governors. So the president is asking for 2,000 to 4,000 at the end of this. By the end of this week, I guess it would be up to 400. But this all stems from this article that was talked about last week, where you have these migrants coming over, many of them from Honduras, and people didn't have a clear sense as to what the laws were in this country when it came to immigration, that you could, once you take one step over that border and you say you need a safe place to go, it could be a couple of years before the court figures it out.
After that, talking about maybe we need to send National Guard troops to the border. You had some on the left freaking out and saying, what is he talking about, the military? And then we pointed out, well, in 2010, Barack Obama did something similar because he felt like there was a crisis. Well, overnight, literally in the last few moments, we've gotten these pictures from late yesterday where the Pentagon is now stepping it up and having their first real briefings on this. You could see top civilian and military officials there sort of mapping out what's going to come in the days ahead.
That's right. You're going to have to map out a rotation, which states are going to be a part of it. We've already seen, Ed, as well, some questions from certain governors saying we don't want to participate. Right. So Oregon, Montana, I believe Nevada, California's in question. What will Jerry Brown do there? You don't want to see a scenario where these governors feel like their contribution, their most recent contribution to the resistance is not being a part of an effort to secure our border. So hopefully they'll come around and not make it a political issue.
How much of that, to your point, is simply political? Because as you mentioned, this has been done before. The reaction, a lot of people are in hysterics over what's going on, but this happened most recently under former President Barack Obama.
He had a couple thousand National Guard troops.
And same with G.W. Bush back in 2006.
And he had more. I believe it was in the range of 6,000 to 6,500. And so that will be a question for this president in the days ahead. Is 4,000 enough? Maybe it's because he's going to be struggling to get some governors to participate, as you mentioned, Pete. But the fact of the matter is George W. Bush did something similar in 2006 with more National Guard troops, and here we are a dozen years later. That border's still not secure. So it may need, maybe 4,000 is a down payment.
Sure.
But in the end, you may need a whole lot more.
But he's saying we need to begin somewhere. We need to start implementing some laws that make real sense for the American people, so that there is a proper way for people to become citizens of this country. So that's going on. National troops are being sent to the border, but also some policy changes are happening. Major moves on immigration. The president signing a memo ordering the end to catch and release policies, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions also ordering zero tolerance policy at the border. These are some pretty big moves that will have quite an impact. Catch and release
is so important to talk about, because basically you catch someone at the border who's basically illegal. It's a migrant trying to come over, but they're trying to enter the country illegally. You catch them, they step a foot on the U.S. side of the border, you have to release them. And then they're going to eventually go to court, allegedly, in the weeks, months ahead. Sometimes this takes a year or two, and they never show up for court. So they're in this country illegally.
Yeah, as their case plays out, they're wherever they are. We have no sense of where, and then they have to voluntarily come back for their court appearance, which a lot of them don't do. So this memorandum starts a process that orders the DHS to submit a report to the president within 45 days, and they're doing an assessment of the facilities that they might have near the border, military and civilian, as well as people. Because if you're going to, instead of releasing people after when they're caught, there's a review of why they came. Are you seeking asylum? Sure. Are you here to work? What do you do? Do you have papers or not? And if they don't pass muster, then there's a court hearing that comes later on. But if you're going to hold them for that time process,
how long?
You've got to have the facilities to do it. So the logistics comes into play here. Cost comes into play here. Of course, we understand the cost of illegal immigration as well. So a lot to be fleshed out. But the announcement itself shows there's a new sheriff in town, and catch and release is not going to be.
It's so interesting to hear from people that work on the border, getting their perspective, because what they see coming in every day and the rules of the road as they existed up to this point, of the flexibility of what they can do when people come through and say they need a place to go, I feel like there's a disconnect between what they're doing and what the American people ultimately understand
and
and
the
know.
president is